Costa Mesa woke up slowly, as it always did on weekdays. The morning fog from the ocean had not yet completely dissipated when the first visitors began to enter the Seafoam Cafe on Newport Boulevard. It was one of those places where locals had been meeting for years, where everyone knew each other by name and new faces were noticed immediately. Alex Morgan was wiping down a table by the window when she noticed a middle-aged man hesitating at the door. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in mechanic's overalls, he was clearly not a regular. His hands were covered in machine oil, which he was trying unsuccessfully to wipe off with a handkerchief. "Welcome to the Seafoam," Alex smiled when he finally decided to come in. "There's a table by the window if you'd like." Ryan Lewis stopped, surprised by the friendliness of the unfamiliar waitress. At 48, he was used to indifferent service in most of the city's establishments. His life was a predictable routine: the auto repair shop from morning to night, home to his sullen 16-year-old son, and the occasional evening at the bar with his co-workers. "Thanks," he replied, sitting down at the table she had shown him. "Are you new here?" Alex nodded as she poured him some coffee. "I moved here a year ago, still getting used to the local customs." "Where are you from?" Ryan asked, studying her face. Something about her caught his attention, perhaps the sincerity in her eyes or the way she carried herself, confident yet cautious. "Sacramento. I decided it was time for a change." Alex didn't like talking about her past, but this man seemed safe. "Have you always lived here?" "Almost. I left to serve in the army after high school, but I came back. Family business, you know." Ryan took a sip of coffee. "Lewis's Auto Repair on Harbor Boulevard. Maybe you've heard of it." Alex shook her head. She didn't have a car. She got around by bike or public transportation, but she remembered the name. Just then, the cafe door opened and Michelle Hart walked in. She was a nurse at the local hospital, 35 years old, with tired eyes from the night shift. She was the only person in Costa Mesa who knew Alex's real story. "Hi, sweetie," Michelle said as she approached the counter. "How are you?" "Fine," Alex replied, pouring her friend her usual cappuccino. "Getting to know some customers." Michelle glanced at Ryan, who was watching their conversation closely, and frowned slightly. She knew how cautious Alex was about new acquaintances, especially men. "Mr. Lewis is the owner of the auto repair shop," Alex introduced him. "Michelle Hart, my best friend." Ryan nodded in greeting. "Nice to meet you. Do you work at the hospital?" "In the emergency room," Michelle replied curtly. She was a protector by nature, and something about the way this man looked at Alex made her wary. Alex sensed the tension and hastened to diffuse it. "Michelle helped me find a job here when I first arrived. I don't know what I'd do without her." "Mutual support is the foundation of small towns," Ryan said, but his attention was focused on Alex. "Maybe you could show me around sometime? I've lived here my whole life, but it's always interesting to see familiar places through the eyes of a visitor." Alex felt her cheeks flush slightly. It had been a long time since anyone had asked her to spend time together. "Maybe," she replied cautiously, "but I work almost every day." "Not just here, as I understand it," Michelle interjected, shooting her friend a warning glance. Alex froze. Michelle knew about her work as an escort, but they never discussed it in front of others. "I have other commitments in the evenings," she said vaguely. Ryan didn't notice the hidden meaning in the conversation. He finished his coffee and stood up, leaving a generous tip on the table. "Thanks for the coffee and the company. Hope to see you again." When the door closed behind him, Michelle immediately approached Alex. "Be careful with him," she said quietly. "I know that type. Conservative, traditional. He has a teenage son and he recently got divorced." "How do you know that?" Alex asked, surprised. "Costa Mesa isn't that big of a town. Everyone ends up in the hospital sooner or later. His son Jake has been to the emergency room a couple of times after fights at school. Ryan isn't the type to take change easily." Alex thought about it. "He seemed kind to me." "He may be kind, but kindness and acceptance are two different things." Michelle took her friend's hand. "Alex, I know how lonely you are, but not everyone is ready for the truth about you, and not everyone deserves to know it." The rest of the day passed quietly. Alex served her regular customers, smiled, took orders, but her thoughts were preoccupied with her morning meeting. Ryan Lewis seemed sincere, genuine, unlike most of the men she encountered at her second job. In the evening, getting dressed at home before going to her date, Alex looked at herself in the mirror. 2 years of hormone therapy and plastic surgery had done their job. She saw the woman she had always felt herself to be. But the fear of being exposed never left her completely. Her phone rang. It was the agency. "Alex, we have a client for tonight. Marriott Hotel on Bristol Street, room 412. 1 o'clock in the morning. He wants a girl who looks natural. Are you ready?" Alex closed her eyes. "Yes, I'm ready." Working as an escort was a necessity, not a choice. Moving to Costa Mesa, the surgery, starting a new life. It all cost money she didn't have. The cafe didn't pay much, and she hoped that eventually she would find something better. But for now, her evening job was the only way to make ends meet. At the agency, she was known as Victoria, a tall blonde with model looks who could hold a conversation and looked flawless. Her clients were usually lonely businessmen or middle-aged men looking for companionship with no strings attached. She never told them about her past, that wasn't part of the deal. As she got ready for the meeting, Alex thought about Michelle's warning. Her friend was right. Not everyone is ready for the truth. But didn't she have the right to a normal life? To be just a woman working in a cafe? Meanwhile, Ryan Lewis sat at home, drinking beer and watching TV. His son Jake was locked in his room, as usual. Their relationship had deteriorated since the divorce a year ago. The boy blamed his father for the breakup of the family, even though it was his mother who had been unfaithful. "Jake!" Ryan called out. "Dinner's ready!" "I don't want any," came the reply from behind the door. "Then at least come out and talk. We haven't had a normal conversation in a week." The door opened, and a skinny teenager with long hair and a sullen expression appeared. "What is there to talk about, Dad? How you sit at home alone all evening? Or how Mom is living with a new boyfriend who is 10 years younger than you?" Ryan sighed. "Jake, I know the divorce was hard on you, but we have to move on." "Easy for you to say. Are you even trying to meet someone? Or are you just going to sit in your workshop for the rest of your life?" Ryan thought about his morning encounter at the cafe, about the girl with the kind eyes and the shy smile. "Maybe I am," he said quietly. "Really?" Jake showed interest in talking to his father for the first time in a long time. "Who is she?" "A waitress at the cafe. Alex. She's new in town." "Is she pretty?" Ryan nodded. "But it's not just that. She's sincere. I haven't met a woman like that in a long time." Jake sat down at the table across from his father. "Ask her out on a date." "It's not that simple, son. She works. She has her own life. Besides, after my divorce, I'm not sure I'm ready for a new relationship." "Dad, you're 48, not 80. And if this Alex is really special, don't miss your chance." For the first time in months, they were talking like human beings, and Ryan felt hopeful. Maybe things were really starting to look up. At midnight, Alex was in a taxi on her way to the hotel, thinking about her day. The meeting with Ryan had unsettled her more than she was willing to admit. He was exactly the type of man she had dreamed of as a teenager. Reliable, honest, genuine. But between them lay a chasm of secrets she didn't know how to bridge. The phone rang again. "Victoria? Small change of plans. The client has moved the meeting to tomorrow. Sorry to bother you." Alex felt relieved. Today she could just go home, drink some tea, and think about what to do next. Whether it was worth taking a risk and trying to build a relationship with Ryan, or whether it was better to keep her distance, as Michelle had advised. On her way home, she decided to give herself a chance to get to know him better. After all, everyone deserved the right to happiness. The next 2 weeks were a period of cautious happiness for Alex. Ryan started coming to the cafe almost every morning, always ordering a table by the window and always leaving generous tips. Their conversations became more and more personal. He talked about the difficulties of raising a teenage son. She shared her impressions of life in a new city. "You know what surprises me?" Ryan said one morning, stirring sugar into his coffee. "You never talk about the past, about your family, your friends in Sacramento." Alex felt a familiar tightness in her chest. "Not very pleasant memories. Sometimes it's better to start with a clean slate." "I understand." Ryan nodded. After my divorce, I wanted to forget everything and start over too. But the past has a habit of catching up with us. He didn't know how prophetic his words would be. That evening, while getting dressed for a client meeting, Alex received a call from the agency. "Victoria, we have a regular client who specifically requested you. Can you meet him at 8? "Sure. Where?" "The Sunset Motel on MacArthur Boulevard, room 23. The client asked for a girl with, as he put it, natural beauty. That's your profile." Alex agreed, unaware that her life was about to change dramatically. Ryan sat in the motel room, nervously fiddling with his car keys. 3 months ago, a colleague at the workshop had given him the business card of an escort agency, joking about his loneliness after his divorce. Ryan had thrown the card away, but last week, after a particularly difficult day with Jake, he found it again. This was his 3rd time. The first 2 encounters had been unsuccessful. The girls seemed fake, only interested in money, but the agency promised that this time they would send someone special. A knock on the door made him flinch. "1 minute," he said, straightening his shirt. Opening the door, Ryan froze. Standing in front of him was Alex from the cafe, but completely transformed. An elegant black dress, professional makeup, a confident posture. For a second, neither of them could say a word. "Ryan?" Alex broke the silence first, her voice trembling with shock. "Alex, what are you doing?" Ryan couldn't finish his sentence. He couldn't wrap his head around the fact that the sweet waitress from the cafe was standing at the door of a motel room at 8 o'clock in the evening. "I think we need to talk," Alex said quietly as she entered the room. They sat down at opposite ends of the bed, avoiding each other's gaze. The awkwardness of the situation weighed heavily on both of them. "How long?" Ryan finally asked. "A year. Since I moved here." Alex clenched her hands into fists. "And you?" "3rd time." Ryan ran his hand over his face. "Damn, this is so awkward. I didn't know." "No one knows, only Michelle." Alex looked up. "Ryan, I didn't want this to happen. If I had known you were the client." "What would you have done?" The question hung in the air. Alex realized she didn't know the answer. "I probably would have canceled the meeting," she said honestly. "That complicates things." Ryan stood up and walked over to the window. "Why? Why do you do this?" "Money." The answer was simple, but behind it lay a complicated story that Alex wasn't ready to tell. "Working at a cafe doesn't cover all my expenses." "What kind of expenses could be that big?" Alex froze. Medical bills, hormone therapy, counseling. It all cost money that a waitress could never afford. "It's personal," she replied evasively. Ryan turned to her. "Alex, I'm not judging you, honestly. After my divorce, I realized that life is more complicated than it seems, but I'd like to understand." There was no judgment in his voice, only a sincere desire to understand. Alex hadn't expected that. "I needed money for medical procedures, very expensive ones. Working as an escort was the only way I could pay for them." "Are you okay? Are you sick?" "No, I'm not sick." Alex stood up. "Ryan, I think I should go. It's not right to mix." "Stay," he said quickly. "Please, let's just talk, like people." Alex hesitated. The professional rules were clear, no personal relationships with clients. But Ryan wasn't a regular client. He was the man who made her heart race every morning at the cafe. "Okay," she agreed, but not as client and escort, as Ryan and Alex. They spent the next 2 hours just talking. Ryan told her about his divorce, how his wife had left him for another man, how hard it was to raise Jake on his own. Alex talked about her dreams of finding a better job, of wanting to live a normal life. "I don't want to do this for the rest of my life," she admitted. "It's temporary, until I get my finances in order. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll find a normal job, meet a nice guy, start a family." Ryan looked at her intently. "In the meantime, you're seeing guys like me." "You're not like the other clients," Alex said quietly. "The others just want sex with no strings attached. You're a lonely person looking for a connection with someone. Is it that obvious?" "To me, yes." When it was time to part, they both knew that something had changed between them. Ryan paid her like a regular escort, but it hurt them both. "See you tomorrow at the cafe?" he asked at the door. I don't know, Ryan. It complicates things. But the next morning, Alex was at work as usual, and Ryan arrived at 8 o'clock sharp, as he had done for the past 2 weeks. "Hi," he said, sitting down at his usual table. "Hi," she replied, pouring him coffee. They didn't talk about last night, but the air between them was charged with a new understanding of each other. A week later, Ryan booked another date through the agency. And then another week passed. Each time, they spent their time talking more than doing anything else. Ryan talked about his fears as a single father, and Alex talked about her struggle to find her place in a new city. "This is wrong," Michelle said when Alex told her about the situation. "You're falling in love with a client. That breaks all the rules." "I know," Alex admitted, "but with him I feel real, like I can be myself." "But you can't be completely yourself. You haven't told him the most important thing." Alex fell silent. Michelle was right. There was a huge secret between her and Ryan that could destroy everything. Meanwhile, Ryan's relationship with his son was gradually improving. Jake noticed that his father had become calmer and less irritable. "Are you still seeing that waitress?" he asked one day at dinner. "In a way," Ryan replied cautiously. "Do you like her?" "Yes, very much." "Then ask her out on a real date. Not to a cafe, but somewhere you can talk properly." Ryan thought about it. The idea was tempting, but how could he explain to Alex the transition from their strange client-escort relationship to a normal, romantic relationship? At their next meeting at the motel, he made up his mind. "Alex, I want to ask you out to dinner. A real dinner, not through the agency." Alex froze, combing her hair in front of the mirror. "Ryan, I'm serious. I enjoy spending time with you, I enjoy talking to you, and I think you do too." "That's true," she admitted, "but it will complicate things even more, or simplify them." "Alex, I don't want to pay for your time anymore. I want you to spend it with me because you want to." Alex turned to him. There was a sincerity in his eyes that she hadn't seen in a man in a very long time. "What if I don't live up to your expectations?" "What expectations?" "Well, you're used to me as an escort. Beautiful, always ready, always in a good mood. But in real life, I'm just a regular woman with problems and bad days." Ryan walked over to her and took her hands. "Alex, you're the ordinary woman I've been missing in my life." They didn't have sex that night. They just lay in bed, holding hands and planning their first real date. But with each passing day, Alex's secret became heavier. She felt herself falling in love with Ryan and knew that sooner or later she would have to tell him the truth about her past. The only question was when and how to do it. In the meantime, she continued to live a double life. During the day, she was Alex, a waitress in love with a kind mechanic, and at night, she was Victoria, an escort who was dating the same man for money. It was an unstable balance that couldn't last long. Meanwhile, Jake began to show curiosity about his father's new girlfriend. He stopped by the Seafoam Cafe several times after school, studying Alex from afar. He liked the way she laughed and cared for her clients. His father was right. She really did seem special. But teenagers often notice things that adults don't. Jake noticed that Alex disappeared somewhere in the evenings, always elegantly dressed, always a little nervous. It didn't fit with the image of a simple waitress. For now, he kept his observations to himself, but his curiosity grew. A month had passed since Ryan had asked Alex out on a date. Their first real date took place at a small Italian restaurant in nearby Newport Beach, where none of their acquaintances could accidentally see them. Alex was more nervous than she had ever been on a client meeting. Now the stakes were completely different. "You look beautiful," Ryan said when she appeared in a simple blue dress and a light cardigan. No provocative makeup or revealing clothes, just her. "Thanks," Alex replied, sitting down across from him. "To be honest, I can't remember the last time I was this nervous on a date." "That's a good sign," Ryan smiled. "It means it's important to you." Over dinner, they talked about books, movies, plans for the future, everything except Alex's job as an escort. It was a topic they tacitly avoided, even though it hung in the air between them. "Alex," Ryan said when dessert was served, "I want to be honest with you. I enjoy spending time with you, I really do, and I'd like us to try to build something real." Alex felt her heart beat faster. "What do you mean?" I mean a relationship. A real relationship, without any stages in between. Ryan took her hand. I know you have your reasons for doing what you do, but if we're going to be together, I'd like that to stop. Alex froze. She had been expecting this conversation, but she still wasn't ready for it. Ryan, it's not that simple. I need the money. For medical procedures, I remember. What if I help? The workshop is doing well, I can… No! Alex interrupted him sharply. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell. I just can't take your money. It would make me… What? Dependent. And I promised myself I would never be dependent on anyone again. Ryan squeezed her hand tighter. Alex, in a relationship, people support each other. It's not dependence, it's partnership. I need time to think, she said quietly. Of course, as much as you need. The next day at the cafe, Ryan acted as usual. No hint of their conversation the day before in front of other people. This touched Alex. He was discreet and respectful. How was your date? Michelle whispered when they were alone in the kitchen. He asked me to quit my job as an escort, Alex confessed. Michelle put the plates down and turned to her friend. And what did you say? That I need time to think about it. Alex, do you understand what that means? If you agree, sooner or later you'll have to tell him the truth. The whole truth. I know. Are you ready for that? Alex was silent. Was she ready to tell Ryan that she had been born in a male body? About the years of hormone therapy, the surgery, why she had moved to Costa Mesa? I don't know, she replied honestly. Meanwhile, Jake continued his observations, but now they were of a completely different nature. The 16-year-old teenager was simply curious to learn more about his father's new girlfriend. He noticed that Alex went out in the evenings, always well-dressed, which seemed strange to him for a waitress. One day, on his way home from basketball practice, he saw Alex getting into a taxi around 9 o'clock in the evening. She was wearing a beautiful dress and looked completely different from how she had looked at the cafe that afternoon. Strange, Jake thought. Where could she be going so late and dressed up like that? Teenage curiosity prompted him to come up with a simple explanation. Maybe she had a second job at a restaurant or club, or maybe she was seeing someone else besides his father. The thought alarmed him. The next day at dinner, he cautiously brought up the subject. Dad, does Alex only work at the cafe? Ryan looked up from his plate. She has an extra job in the evenings. Why do you ask? I just saw her last night. She was getting into a taxi, all dressed up. I thought maybe she works at a fancy restaurant. Maybe, Ryan replied vaguely. He didn't know exactly what Alex did in the evenings, and it bothered him a little. Aren't you jealous? Jake asked bluntly. Of what? Well, she's pretty. She works somewhere in the evenings with people. Maybe she has admirers. Ryan thought about it. Jake, trust is important in a relationship. If I get jealous for no reason, it'll just ruin everything. But you don't know exactly where she works, do you? No, Ryan admitted. She doesn't like to talk about it. Jake nodded, but inside he felt uneasy. Something wasn't right. Adults always talked about their jobs, especially if they were dating someone. Why was Alex so secretive? Over the next few days, he paid more attention to Alex's behavior at the cafe. She was friendly with all the customers, but she was especially close to his father, as if they had some kind of secret. They whispered to each other, touched hands, and exchanged glances. Jake didn't like it, not because he was against his father's relationship, but because he felt that something was being hidden from him. At that time, Alex made a decision. She called the agency and said she was quitting. Victoria, are you sure? You have regular customers and good reviews. I'm sure. My circumstances have changed. I understand. Well, the door is always open if you change your mind. After hanging up, Alex felt both relief and fear. She had chosen Ryan, but now she had to find a way to make ends meet on a waitress's salary. That evening, Ryan stopped by the cafe before closing time. I wanted to talk to you, Alex said, taking off her apron. I'm listening. I've made a decision. I'm not doing that job anymore. Ryan's face lit up with a smile. Really? Really? I sorted everything out this morning. Ryan hugged her, and Alex felt the tension of the last few weeks melt away. I'm so happy, he whispered in her ear. Now we can build a real relationship. The next 2 weeks were the happiest Alex had had in years. They spent every free evening together, walking on the beach, watching movies at Ryan's house, dining at small restaurants. Ryan introduced her to Jake, and although the teenager was a bit reserved, he didn't show any open hostility. "She's normal," Jake told his father after Alex went home from dinner. "Yes, she's special," Ryan agreed, but Jake still felt that something was wrong. Alex was nice to him, but he noticed how she tensed up when he asked questions about her past or her family. She always found a way to change the subject. One evening, while they were all watching a movie, Jake asked, "Alex, do you have any brothers or sisters?" Alex froze for a second, then smiled. "No, I'm an only child." "What about your parents?" "We're not very close. They live far away." Jake noticed how she avoided his gaze and how his father quickly changed the subject. It seemed as if Ryan knew that some topics were best left untouched. A week later, Alex's worst fear came true. She and Ryan were having dinner at a Mexican restaurant when a middle-aged man approached their table. "Victoria?" he said uncertainly. Alex felt the blood drain from her face. It was one of her former clients, Mark, a businessman from Los Angeles whom she had dated a few months earlier. "I'm sorry, you must have the wrong person," she said quickly. Mark frowned. "No, I'm sure I'm right. We met at the Hilton Hotel in February. You worked through an agency." "Sir, you must have me confused with someone else," Alex said firmly, but her voice was shaking. Ryan looked at her, then at the man. "Is there a problem?" Mark was confused. "I'm sorry. I must have made a mistake. You just look very similar." He walked back to his table. Alex sat with her eyes downcast. Ryan reached out and touched her hand. "Alex, are you okay?" "Yes," she replied quietly. "It's just unpleasant when strange men hit on you." But Ryan could see that it was more than that. Alex's behavior, the way she had turned pale, the way her voice had trembled, it all suggested that the man knew her. On the way home, Ryan couldn't get what had happened out of his head. "Alex, that man at the restaurant. What about him? He knew you. He called you by a different name." "Victoria is a pretty common name. He probably got you mixed up. He mentioned a hotel and some kind of agency." Alex stopped. "Ryan, what are you trying to say?" "I'm trying to say that he knew you as Victoria, working through an agency, and the agency that arranges meetings in hotels is an escort agency," Alex finished. "Yes, Ryan, it's an escort agency." There was a long silence. "So you've been lying to me all along?" "No, I mean, I didn't lie to you about not working there anymore. I really did quit that job 2 weeks ago. But you didn't tell me that we had met before I became your client." Alex covered her face with her hands. "Ryan, I was afraid. I was afraid you would judge me." "Alex, it's not about judgment. It's about honesty. How can I build a relationship with someone who hides such important things from me? I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how." Ryan stopped and turned to her. "What else are you hiding from me?" The question hung in the air. Alex knew this was the moment of truth. She could tell him everything. About her past, about her transition, about why she needed money for medical procedures. Or she could continue to hide the most important thing. "Nothing else important," she lied. But she could see in Ryan's eyes that he no longer believed her. 3 days had passed since their conversation in the restaurant, and Ryan hadn't shown up at the cafe. Alex tried to call him, but he didn't answer. Michelle saw how upset her friend was, but didn't know how to help. "Maybe he just needs some time?" the nurse suggested, watching Alex mechanically wipe the same cup for the 5th time in a row. 3 days, Michelle. He's not even responding to my messages." "Alex, did you tell him everything? About being trans?" "No." Alex put the cup back in its place. "First he finds out about the escort, then I can't dump everything on him at once. But the longer you wait, the worse it will be." Alex knew Michelle was right, but fear paralyzed her. It was one thing to admit to being an escort, but it was quite another to tell a conservative man about her gender identity. Meanwhile, at the auto shop, Ryan was trying to focus on his work, but his thoughts kept returning to Alex. Jake noticed that his father had become gloomy and irritable. "Dad, did you have a fight with Alex?" his son asked at dinner. "Something like that." "What was it about?" Ryan couldn't tell his 16-year-old son the truth about Alex's job. "It turns out she was hiding something from me." "What was it?" It's adult stuff, Jake. The teenager frowned. So you broke up? I don't know, maybe. I liked her, Jake said quietly. Those words hit Ryan hard. His son rarely approved of anyone he knew, and he had accepted Alex right away. But how could you build a relationship on a lie? On the fourth day, Ryan received a message from Alex. Ryan, please let's talk. I want to explain everything. Let's meet somewhere where no one will disturb us. He stared at the screen of his phone for a long time before replying, Okay, the old warehouse on Industrial Avenue next to the abandoned parking lot, 8 o'clock in the evening. Alex was surprised by the choice of location, but agreed. She didn't care where, as long as she got a chance to explain everything. The warehouse was indeed abandoned, one of the old industrial buildings that remained after many businesses moved out of Costa Mesa. The place was secluded, which was exactly what Ryan wanted. He didn't want anyone to hear their conversation. Alex arrived by taxi at 8 o'clock sharp. Ryan was already waiting by his pickup truck, smoking, which was unusual for him. He had quit the habit 2 years ago. Thanks for coming, Alex said, approaching him. Talk, Ryan replied curtly without looking at her. Ryan, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. I have every right? Thanks for giving me permission to be angry at my own girlfriend, who turned out to be a prostitute. The word prostitute hit Alex like a slap in the face. I'm not a prostitute. Escorting is different. Yeah? What's the difference? You take money for intimate services. Not always intimate. Sometimes just for company. Ryan turned to her, his eyes burning with rage. Alex, stop it. Stop lying. We slept together for money. Several times. Call it what you want, but the fact remains. Alex took a step back. She had never seen Ryan so angry. I wasn't lying about my feelings for you. They're real. How can I know that? How can I know that anything you've told me is true? Because I quit my job for you. Because I love you. Love? Ryan laughed bitterly. You didn't even tell me your real name. Alex was taken aback. What do you mean? The man at the restaurant called you Victoria. Is that your real name? No, it's a work pseudonym. Alex is my real name. Alex is also a pseudonym, right? Short for Alexandra? Alex felt the ground slipping away from under her feet. Ryan, what's your real name? The silence dragged on. Alex knew there was no point in lying anymore, but the truth could destroy everything. My name is Alex, she said quietly. I used to have a different name, but now I'm Alex. What do you mean, different? Ryan, it's hard to explain. Try, because I don't understand anything anymore. Who are you? And don't tell me again that you're not hiding anything else. Alex closed her eyes. The moment of truth had arrived. I'm a trans woman, she blurted out. I was born in a male body, but I always knew I was a woman. For the past 2 years, I've been taking hormones and had surgery. The money for the medical procedures was for those surgeries and treatment. The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan stood motionless, trying to process what he had heard. What? He finally said. I'm a trans woman. I needed a lot of money for the transition, so I... Stop. Ryan raised his hand. Stop. Are you saying you were born a man? Yes, but... So you have a... Ryan, I am a complete woman now. The surgery. Oh my God. Ryan backed away toward the car, leaning against it. Oh my God. Alex saw his face change. Shock, disgust, anger, all in rapid succession. Ryan, please listen to me. Listen? Listen to what? He turned sharply toward her. You've been lying to me all this time. I didn't cheat on you. I'm a woman. No, you're a man. A man in a dress. The words hit harder than Alex could have expected. Don't say that. Please. How should I say it? I slept with a man. I thought I was in love with a woman and you're... Ryan couldn't finish the sentence. He felt nauseous, furious, disgusted with himself. Ryan, I'm the same woman you fell in love with. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed? Ryan grabbed her by the shoulders. Everything has changed. It was all a lie. No, my feelings for you are real. Your feelings? What about my feelings? Did you think about how it feels to find out that the person you love isn't who they seem to be? Alex tried to free herself from his grip. Let me go. I imagined us together. I thought about marriage, about children. And you, damn it, you can't even have children. Ryan, you're hurting me. but he didn't hear her. Rage clouded his vision. All these months he had been making plans with a woman who didn't exist. "You know what the worst part is?" he continued, not loosening his grip. "That my son has grown to love you. Jake thought he was finally going to have a normal family." "Ryan, you're hurting me." "Hurting? You're hurt?" He shook her. "How do you think I feel? How does my son feel? Please stop!" Something snapped in his brain. All the tension that had built up over the years, the divorce, the loneliness, the problems with his son, and now this betrayal, merged into a wave of rage. "You ruined everything!" he shouted. "Everything!" Alex tried to break free, but his grip tightened. "Ryan, please! Shut up! Just shut up!" He pushed her, and Alex fell to the concrete floor of the warehouse. Ryan stood over her, breathing heavily. "You thought you could just play woman and no one would find out?" Alex tried to get up, but he pushed her down again. "I'm not playing! I'm a woman!" "No!" Ryan yelled. "You're a man! A pervert!" He grabbed an iron pipe lying nearby, a remnant of old equipment. "Ryan, what are you doing?" Alex tried to crawl away, but her back was against the wall. "What am I doing? Correcting a mistake." "No, please." But Ryan was no longer in control of himself. The whole world narrowed to a single point, to the lie that had destroyed his life. He raised the pipe and struck. The first blow hit Alex on the head. She screamed and tried to cover herself with her hands. "Ryan, stop!" But he didn't hear her. The second blow, the third. Alex wasn't screaming anymore. When the rage finally subsided, Ryan stood with the bloodied pipe in his hands over the motionless body. Alex was lying in a strange position, blood slowly spreading across the concrete floor. "Alex?" he called softly. There was no answer. Reality hit him like an icy wave. He had just killed someone, a woman he loved, a former man who had betrayed him. He didn't know how to think about Alex anymore. Ryan dropped the pipe and fell to his knees. What had he done? What had he done? His hands were shaking as he reached for his phone. He had to call an ambulance. Maybe she was still alive. Maybe she could still be saved. But when he approached the body, it became clear that there was no one left to save. Alex's eyes were open, but there was no life in them. Ryan collapsed next to the body and cried. He had killed the only person who made him feel alive after his divorce. It didn't matter who she was before. Now she was dead because of him. Without remembering how, he got to his car and drove away, leaving the body in the warehouse. At home, Jake immediately noticed his father's condition. "Dad, what happened? You look terrible." "Nothing," Ryan replied hoarsely. "I'm tired." He locked himself in the bathroom and stood under the hot shower for a long time, trying to wash the blood off his hands and the memory of what had happened from his mind. But it was impossible. Michelle began to worry when Alex didn't come home by midnight. Her friend always let her know if she was going to be late. At 2 a.m, the nurse decided to go look for her. She remembered that Alex was going to meet Ryan, but she didn't know where. Michelle drove to all the places they usually went. Cafes, restaurants where they had been together. Nothing. At 4 a.m, desperate, she drove to the industrial area where Ryan worked. Maybe they were meeting somewhere near his workshop. Near an abandoned warehouse, she noticed something shiny on the asphalt. Alex's earring, which she always wore. Michelle's heart sank. The warehouse door was ajar. Michelle went inside and turned on her phone's flashlight. What she saw made her scream. Alex was lying in a pool of blood, bent unnaturally. A bloody iron pipe lay nearby. With trembling hands, Michelle dialed 911. "Police? I found a body. My friend has been murdered." The first police officers arrived 15 minutes later. They were followed by Detective Camilla Thompson, a 45-year-old woman with 20 years of experience in the Costa Mesa Police Department. "What do we have here?" she asked the sergeant. "A woman, 27 years old, Alex Morgan, multiple head injuries from a blunt object. The murder weapon appears to be this pipe." Camilla carefully examined the crime scene. Blood, scattered belongings, signs of a struggle. The picture was clear. Someone had brought the victim here and killed her in a fit of rage. "Who found the body?" "Michelle Hart, a friend of the deceased. She's waiting outside." Camilla walked out to Michelle, who was sitting in a police car, wrapped in a blanket. "Miss Hart, I'm Detective Thompson. I'm very sorry for your loss." Michelle looked up with tear-filled eyes. "Who could have done this? Who could have killed Alex? We're going to find out. But I need your help. Tell me about Alex's last day. Who did she see? Where was she?" "She said she was meeting Ryan Lewis. He's her boyfriend." Camilla wrote down the name. "Where were they supposed to meet?" "I don't know. She didn't say." "Miss Hart, did Alex have any enemies? Anyone who might have threatened her?" Michelle hesitated. Should she tell the police that Alex was transgender? That she worked as an escort? But if it would help find the killer. "Detective, there's something you should know about Alex." "Detective, there's something you should know about Alex," Michelle began, sitting in the police car. Camilla Thompson took out her notebook. In her 20 years on the force, she had heard it all, and little could surprise her anymore. "I'm listening, Miss Hart. Alex was a trans woman. She was born in a male body, but had been transitioning for the last 2 years." Camilla nodded as she wrote. "Who else knew about this?" "Almost no one. Only me. She was very ashamed and afraid of being judged." "What about her boyfriend, Ryan Lewis? Did he know?" Michelle shook her head. "No, she was afraid to tell him. She said he was conservative and might not understand." "Anything else?" Michelle sighed heavily. "She worked as an escort to pay for her medical procedures, but she quit that job for her relationship with Ryan." Camilla looked up from her notebook. The picture was starting to come together. "Did Ryan know about the escort work?" "Yes, he found out recently. They had a fight about it a few days ago." "Miss Hart, do you think Ryan Lewis could have harmed Alex?" Michelle was silent for a long time. "I don't know. Alex said he was a kind man. But when people feel betrayed," Camilla understood. Crimes motivated by hatred toward transgender people were not uncommon, especially when a man learned the truth about his partner and felt he had been cheated. At 7 in the morning, Detective Thompson and 2 officers pulled up to Ryan Lewis's house. It was a typical one-story house in a working-class neighborhood, with a well-kept lawn and an old pickup truck in the driveway. Camilla knocked on the door. A few minutes later, a middle-aged man with red eyes and an unshaven face opened the door. "Ryan Lewis?" "Yes." "Detective Thompson, Costa Mesa Police Department. Can we come in? We need to talk." Ryan knew why they were there. He hadn't slept all night, waiting for this moment. "Come in." The house was quiet. Jake had already left for school, unaware that his life was about to change dramatically. "Mr. Lewis, when was the last time you saw Alex Morgan?" "Last night." Ryan's voice was hoarse. "Where exactly?" "At the warehouse, on Industrial Avenue." Camilla exchanged glances with her colleagues. The suspect had confessed without coercion. "What happened at the warehouse?" Ryan sat down in a chair and covered his face with his hands. "We had a fight. A big fight." "About what?" "She told me something I didn't want to hear." "What exactly?" Ryan looked up at the detective. "She said she used to be a man, that she was transgender." "And how did you react to that?" "I got angry. Very angry. I felt betrayed." Camilla leaned forward. "Mr. Lewis, what happened next?" A long pause. Ryan knew that the next words would change his life forever. "I killed her," he said quietly. One of the officers reached for handcuffs, but Camilla stopped him with a gesture. "How exactly did it happen?" "I pushed her. She fell. Then I took an iron pipe and—" Ryan couldn't finish the sentence. "Ryan Lewis, you are under arrest on suspicion of the murder of Alex Morgan. You have the right to remain silent." When Jake returned home from school, his neighbor Mrs. Evans was waiting for him. "Jake, sit down. I need to tell you something." "Where's Dad?" "Your father has been arrested, dear." "For what?" Jake felt the world begin to crumble around him. For murdering Alex. The words didn't make sense. That's impossible. Dad couldn't have done that. He confessed, Jake. He told the police himself what happened. The teenager collapsed onto the sofa. His father was a murderer. Alex was dead. Everything he knew about his life was a lie. News of the murder spread quickly through Costa Mesa. In a small town, things like this don't stay secret for long. By evening, Everyone knew the basic details. A respected mechanic had killed his girlfriend after finding out she was a trans woman. The townspeople's reaction was mixed. Some condemned Ryan for his cruelty. Others said they understood his feelings and that Alex was to blame for lying. At the Seafoam Cafe, owner Frank Miller closed the establishment for 3 days as a sign of mourning. Regular customers brought flowers and left notes in memory of Alex. "She was always so kind," said one of the visitors. "Who would have thought?" "As far as I'm concerned, she should have told the truth from the start," another objected. Ryan had a right to know who he was dating. Michelle listened to these conversations with a heavy heart. People were discussing the death of her best friend as if it were a plot line on a TV show. The preliminary hearing took place a week later. Ryan appeared in court pale, haggard, and wearing an orange prison jumpsuit. The court-appointed lawyer tried to get the charge reduced to manslaughter, citing his client's emotional state. "Your Honor, my client was in a state of extreme emotional distress. He learned information that completely shattered his perception of someone close to him." The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney David Chen, disagreed. "Your Honor, this was premeditated murder. The defendant lured the victim to a secluded location and brutally killed her with a blunt object. The multiple blows indicate an intent to cause death." The judge set the date for the main trial in 2 months. During that time, Jake found himself in the spotlight, which he did not want. His classmates either avoided him or asked insensitive questions. Social services placed him with his aunt, his mother's sister, who lived in a neighboring town. "I know this is hard," the court-appointed psychologist told him, "but you are not to blame for your father's actions." "He's a good man," Jake insisted. "He couldn't have done that." But the facts told a different story. During the investigation, Detective Thompson reconstructed the last days of Alex's life. Witnesses confirmed that she had indeed worked as an escort, but had stopped after beginning a relationship with Ryan. Medical records showed that Alex had been undergoing hormone therapy and had undergone gender reassignment surgery a year earlier. "She was trying to start a new life," Michelle told the detective. "She just wanted to be a normal woman." Camilla had seen many murders in her career, but this case particularly upset her. Alex was a victim not only of physical abuse, but also of social prejudice. The main trial began on a rainy October day. The courtroom was packed with journalists, LGBT activists, and local residents. The case attracted attention far beyond Costa Mesa. Prosecutor Chen presented a clear picture of premeditated murder. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Ryan Lewis lured Alex Morgan to a secluded place and killed her because he couldn't accept her identity. This is a hate crime disguised as a crime of passion." Defense attorney Michael Rodriguez attempted to elicit sympathy for the defendant. "My client is not a monster. He is a man who felt deeply betrayed and reacted in a moment of extreme emotional distress. Alex Morgan hid fundamental facts about herself, which led to this tragedy." Michelle was a key witness for the prosecution. On the stand, she spoke about her friendship with Alex, her fears and her hopes. "She just wanted to be accepted for who she was," Michelle said through tears. She knew not everyone would understand, so she was careful with the truth. "But did she deceive Mr. Lewis?" asked the defense attorney. "She didn't deceive him. She was protecting herself. In our society, transgender people face discrimination and violence every day. Alex had the right to choose when and to whom she would reveal her past." Ryan himself testified in his own defense. In the dock, he looked like a broken man. "I loved her," he said in a hoarse voice. "I really did. But when she told me the truth, I felt like our whole relationship was based on a lie." "Does that justify murder?" asked the prosecutor. "No," Ryan replied quietly. "Nothing justifies what I did. I killed the woman I loved, and I can't forgive myself for that." "Then why did you do it?" Ryan was silent for a long time. "I don't know. At that moment, I wasn't in control of myself. I was so angry, so upset. I wasn't thinking. I just acted." Jake wasn't present at the trial. Psychologists deemed it harmful to his mental health. But he followed the news and knew every detail. He lay awake at night thinking about Alex. She had been kind to him, laughed at his jokes, and took an interest in his studies. Was it all an act? Or did she really care about him? Jake's father couldn't reconcile the image of a loving parent with a man capable of murder. How could the same man who taught him how to change the oil in his car and helped him with his homework beat a woman to death? The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 2 days before reaching a verdict. On the charge of second-degree murder, we find the defendant guilty. Ryan showed no emotion when the verdict was read. He already knew he would spend the rest of his life in prison. When handing down the sentence, Judge Robert Turner addressed the defendant. "Mr. Lewis, you took the life of a young woman who was trying to find her place in the world. Regardless of your feelings about her as a person, she had a right to live. I sentence you to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole." After the trial, Michelle organized a memorial service for Alex. About 100 people gathered in a park by the ocean: friends, colleagues, activists, and sympathizers. Alex was brave, Michelle told the crowd. She had the courage to live as her true self in a world that often doesn't accept people like her. She deserved love and understanding, not violence. Among those present was Frank Miller, the owner of a cafe. "Alex was the best waitress I ever had," he said. "Always polite, always smiling. It doesn't matter to me who she was before. What matters is who I knew." But there were other opinions. Debates raged on the city's internet forums. Some called Alex a victim of a hate crime. Others claimed that she was to blame for what happened. "Normal people have a right to know who they're dating," wrote one user. "No one deserves to die for who they are," others replied. Alex Morgan's case was a turning point for Costa Mesa. The city council passed a resolution against discrimination against LGBT people. Schools introduced programs to prevent bullying and promote diversity, but change was slow. Many residents still believed that people like that should stay away from their town. Jake struggled to adjust to life without his father. His aunt was kind, but they hardly knew each other. At his new school, he was the guy whose father killed a trans woman. Some classmates sympathized, others teased him. A year after the trial, Jake visited his father in prison for the first time. Ryan had aged 10 years, his hair was gray, and his eyes lacked the spark his son remembered. "How are you, Dad?" "I'm surviving," Ryan replied briefly. "How about you? How's school?" "It's okay." They talked about trivial things, avoiding the main topic. Finally, Jake plucked up the courage to ask, "Dad, do you regret what you did?" Ryan was silent for a long time. "Every day, son. Every single day." "Did you really love her?" "Yes. And that makes it even worse." When visiting hours ended, Jake realized that this might be the last time he would see his father. His love for his parents struggled with his disgust for his actions. Detective Camilla Thompson had closed the investigation, but the Alex Morgan case continued to haunt her. She had seen many victims, but this death seemed particularly senseless. "You know what upsets me the most?" she said to a colleague. "If society were more tolerant, if Alex hadn't been afraid to tell the truth, she might still be alive." "Do you think Ryan would have reacted badly anyway?" "Maybe. But if she had told him earlier, in a calm setting, maybe things would have turned out differently." Michelle continued to work at the hospital, but the memory of Alex never left her. She volunteered with an LGBT youth support organization, helping other trans people find medical care and support. Alex would have wanted it, she told herself on difficult days. 5 years later, a small park was built on the site of the old warehouse where Alex died. A memorial plaque read, "In memory of Alex Morgan and all those who have died because of hatred and misunderstanding." Costa Mesa has changed, not radically, but noticeably. New anti-discrimination laws, education, and support programs were introduced. The younger generation grew up more tolerant,